Hey, it's Mr. Shrum, and I'm going to look at the Intro to Anatomy section lesson. The first part was just the basic overview of body organization, but I'll start with the body regions, and we'll get into how the body is divided. Let me get a little closer. There we go. Although this course focuses on the systemic approach to anatomy, as where everything's a system working with one another and all that jazz, if we break the body into regions and associate it with the proper terminology, so we know what's called what and why it's called that, I think that will help you study each body system and the components within each system. And we'll look at the regions of the body as well as cavities and membrane types. So let's get into it. Here are the major regions of the body. The cranial region is your head. The cervical region is your neck area. Then we got your trunk, which is your chest, back, abdomen, upper extremities, like your arms, lower extremities, pelvis, hips, legs. And then we can further divide those into even smaller regions. But first, your cranial region. Cranium refers to the head. So the cranial region refers to the head or skull. And attached to the head, the cervical vertebrae make up the bones of the neck. Thus, the cervical region refers to the neck. Cervical vertebrae. Important stuff. Now, your trunk contains a lot of things. It's like the biggest part of the body. Whereas your arms and your head, legs, they're all attached to this center mass. And there's a lot of regions here, It's the thoracic region. That's your chest, thorax, and your rib cage. Mammary region, the breasts, sternal, the breastbone between the breasts. So your sternum right here, that's in the sternal region. Axillary region, your armpits. Vertebral region, that is your spine. The umbilical region, that's near your navel, your belly button. The pelvic region, your pelvis, in that hip area. Lumbar region, that's your very lower back. Sacral region, that is your tailbone, back there. Gluteal region, your butt. Abdominal region, your stomach. Then we have our upper extremities, that deltoid region, which is your shoulder, where your shoulder is attached, or your arm is attached to your trunk. The brachial region, the upper arm, the bicep and tricep muscles are located here. Antebrachial region, forearm. Ante means before, so before your forearm, you got your forearms. Yeah, there you go. And then your wrists, and then your hands. And the slide says, note the antecubital fossa is the depressed area of the arm opposite the elbow. Opposite the elbow. Interesting note, slide. Body region. So even within the hand, you have little components. The palm is the front of your hand, dorsum, the back, digits, which are your fingers, also you called phalanges, the lower extremities, that includes your thigh, where your quads are, the upper leg, um, the patellar region, that's your knee, important, very important region. Crural region, that's your lower leg near your calves. And then you have your ankles and the foot. And there's a note about the opposite of your knee on the back of your leg is called the popliteal fossa. Fun fact. And your feet consist of the heel, the plantar region, sole or bottom of the foot, the dorsum, that is the top of your foot, and then your digits, your little toes, also called phalanges. Now we have cavities, which are holes or opening in the body or a part of the body. And in the face, we have tons of holes or openings. We have the oral cavity, your mouth. We use that to eat. Nasal cavity, your nose. We use that to smell. Orbital cavities, that's your eyes. That's where your eyes go. We use those to see. And then ear cavities. So we got holes here, holes here, holes here, hole here. Lots of holes in the face. Major anterior cavities of the body include your thoracic cavity near your chest region, and then the abdominopelvic cavity down here. And these cavities are separated by the muscular diaphragm. The organs within these two cavities are called visceral organs. Yeah. So the thoracic cavity is the cavity of the chest. And in there are also pleural cavities. That's where the lungs go. Pericardial cavity, cardio refers to heart. So pericardial cavity is where your heart is contained. The space between the lungs is known as the mediastinum. Fun fact. And now this lower cavity, the abdominopelvic cavity, that is near your abdomen and pelvis. And here lies the digestive, urinary, and reproductive organs. So there's a lot going on in this cavity. So we talked about cavities and body systems. And now we're getting into membranes. So the body membranes are thin layers of epithelial or connective tissue that surround and support the visceral organs, as well as line the body cavities. There are two main types of membranes. We got the mucous membranes and the serous membranes. And these mucous types, they line the cavities that have an external opening in the body. So the respiratory tract, when we breathe, digestive tract, when we eat, and then urinary tract when we excrete the waste. Those all have mucous membranes. And here it shows here. Damage, protective mucus layer, Bacteria colonize the stomach mucosa. Acid passes through weakened muscle layer, causing an ulcer. Epithelial cells, connective tissue. But yeah. And then the serous membranes. These are membranes in cavities that do not open up to the external world. So the thoracic and abdominopelvic cavities have serous membranes because none of that reaches when we open our mouth or eat, right? And these serous membranes secrete serous fluid, and this lubricates the cavities and organs. Many of the organs within these cavities also have serous membrane. And when a membrane is attached to an organ, it is called a visceral membrane. The serous membrane that lines the wall of a cavity is called a parietal membrane. And you can see here the pleural cavity, which is where the lungs are stored. And then the parietal membrane and visceral membrane. For example, the lungs are covered by the visceral pleural membrane. The pleural cavities that contain the lungs are lined by the parietal pleural membrane. And then the space in between the two membranes is called the interpleural space. So, yeah, there's a lot of terminology going on. So I hope that part was helpful. And I'll break out of that section. We did the body organization, body region reference points. Reference points, body planes. Yeah. Sagittal plane, side to side, frontal, transverse plane. Yeah, no, we went through that. So that's the end of that section. Superior, inferior, proximal, distal. We went through that in the other slides. But these slides are good to go through too. Superficial refers to outside the body. Deep refers to inside the body. Prone, lying face down. Supine, lying face up. Yeah. So that's in terms of orientation, where we refer to the body. And then movement. Describes how the body part moves in space, right? So we have flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, elevation, depression. We talked about this in the other slides. Flexion, extension. When you curl, that's flexion. And when you straighten your arm, that's extension. It's a good example. Adduction, towards the midline. Abduction, away. Oh, here's a hint. So the B in abduction is pointed away from the A, and the D in adduction is going towards the A. I guess that's a way to. So this little B is facing away from the A, and then the D is facing towards the A. Okay, that's not a bad hint. Elevation, movement towards the head, depression away from the head. If you shrug your shoulders, you're elevating them, and then when you let that go, you're depressing them. Medial rotation, lateral rotation. When you're loosening a screw, that is medial rotation. Tightening a screw by turning to the right in your right hand, that is lateral rotation. Both medial and midline start with an M. So medial rotation means towards the midline. Pronation, palm down and backward. Supination, palm up and forward. If you're giving someone a high five, that's supination. When you're playing rock, paper, scissors, palm down. When you play paper, it's pronation. Dorsiflexion, moving the foot toward the head. Plantar flexion, moving the foot away from the head. Yeah, okay. So I went through that in another slide, but these are good slides to go through too. And that is it for this first section. So I'll upload everything and we'll be good to go. All right, see you guys later. Bye-bye.